Hello, welcome back to Ether. This is Satomi and Paul from Sakaso.ca. So it's been a while. We missed 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Right.
we were camping and then we got a seasonal bug, whatever that was, So it was kind of not the best for, producing the show. So anyway, we're back now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So today we're going to continue our series on how to heal with the psychic, part 16. And this is all about love in this episode, which is a beautiful episode. Doesn't it sound like it? So the question is, the reason why we're talking about this is that there's so many times that people come to you and they have some kind of physical pain is what usually, but a lot of times it's other things. It's emotional, psychological things going on like that. But it's easier to see the connection in those cases. But with the physical healing stuff is particularly, this is where this gap kind of shows up, where, I'm in pain, for example. I say to you, what's going on? And you tell me there's something to do with relationship, or you tell other clients, right? It has to do with relationship, right? And so like, right? You don't get that from a doctor, right? Your doctors don't tell you that you've got, pains in your leg or whatever like that, whatever it is, because there's a relationship issue. And so what is it that we're really talking about here, right? Why does that come up so much? Why is that such a central part of healing? Is actual, relationship, healthy relationship. So that's what we want to focus on today. So what is that connection exactly? How does that come together? Do you want to say something, or
I don't know where you're taken from here, so
it doesn't matter. You go.
So
answer it anyway. It doesn't matter.
It's a little bit. I'm actually not clear about relationship. How you are using the word relationship. So if I fill in a gap my way, if you say it's a relationship connecting to physical issue, because relationship is everything. Relationship with your partner, relationship with your family, relationship with your work, relationship with your friends. Our life is built on many different relationships, right? So without relationship, we don't have life.
I agree with that.
Right?
That's exactly
so that how I see it. From that point of view, then yes, everything is every issue is connected to relationship, because relationship is everything, right? So if you say it's because of the relationship and love, and then people think it's romantic relationship and love between you and your partner, and if you take it that way, it's a no. It's more like a wide, as a whole relationship, and if you have an issue, it's gonna hurt you. Just simply, if I can just simplify it, if you have unhealthy relationship, it's gonna hurt you emotionally and mentally, and then mentally, emotionally hurting yourself. It's gonna end up hurting your physical body too, because they are not just related, they are, you can say, both sides of the coin, right? physical and mental. It's the same thing. It's just the other side of the coin.
Yeah, I'd say
Right.
it's just different aspects of the same thing. If you're in pain, if you're out of balance, it's going to show up in one of those aspects of your life or both, right? Yeah.
So, so that's how a relationship is connecting to your physical issue.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
That's exactly. I couldn't agree more. It's
Okay.
I would just clarify though what I think you're saying when it comes to the romantic side, right? Your romantic relationship is one
Yes, it's just
out
one.
of the whole
Yeah.
group. That's what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I thought. Yeah. So yes, we are social animals, right? We're as humans are everything about ourselves, and the way we live our lives is done so in relation to other people, right? Or also you can say in relation to ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So everything then is a relationship, right? Everything that we do in our life has to do with relationship. So if we are in let's just take an example here. So like oh yeah, I mean there's this point here. I mean living in love is alignment with the authentic self, right? So if we live our life through our authentic self, then we're going to be, there's really no difference between that and living a life that's loving of ourself and of others. When you say you're living as your authentic self, because your authentic self is just full of love, right? So you can't help but really kind of bring those two things together. So that kind of having a loving relationship is completely linked to living your authentic self. So that loving relationship with yourself and with others. And when that means you're being your authentic self, that means you're living in your power. And that means you are aligned, you're centered, you're able to handle things, you don't stress out and go crazy about stuff. You're able to work with the world and not be, run over by the world. So that leads to good health, right? So that's what we're talking about here. And just as an example, like, so when things go wrong, it's like one type of unhealthy situation. That this is something I can speak to personally, is if you let others treat you poorly, if you let others run you down, if they're abusive, if they're just mean or just like disrespectful, whatever the case may be, or they're just taking advantage of you, all those kinds of different flavors of a negative relationship with someone else, then that means that, and you're letting that happen, right? I mean, bad stuff happens, right? Like, you run into a shady character here and there, right? In life. And if you just deal with it and move on, then that's different, right? Somebody, step on your blue suede shoes while you're out and about, and maybe it was an accident, or maybe they just, in polite person, you deal with it right there and you move on, right? But if you keep letting it happen, if you have that an ongoing relationship with that person, then that leads to you're denying yourself having any safe place to be. So if you're in a close relationship with somebody and they're abusive to you, they're disrespectful, they use you, all that kind of stuff, then there's no place that's safe for you to be. Then you can never let your guard down. You always have to be protecting yourself, right? Or but you're not doing it well, right? You're constantly trying to protect yourself. And you're just, waiting for the next one to hit you, right? All the time. There, when you have your defenses up all the time, that's where your energy goes. All your energy is directed towards that. It means like your fight or flight is activated, right? Fight, flight, freeze response. So your adrenaline's pumping, your cortisol, your stress. So your stress hormones are going out like crazy. You're pumping blood to your muscles and your extremities. You're ready for a fight. You're tensed up. Your breathing is shallow. Your awareness goes. You go into this tunnel vision where you're just focused on what you see as the threat, right? And that's all you see. And you see the world then, if you're doing that all the time, you're just seeing the world as a threat, right? So, and that justifies keeping your guard up, right? So, all of those things happen. So all of your energy is being pumped into that kind of stuff. Your heart rate's up, all those kind of things. None of your energy is being directed towards digestion, good sleep and healing and rest or let alone enjoyment of life, right? So because that's the two different modes that you can be in. You can only be in one of those two modes. You can be in your fight or flight, in your protection mode, or you can be in healing and growth mode. You can't be in both, right? So your body's built that way, and it's beautiful how that works. It's meant to have those threats, those problems come up occasionally, right? You have an occasional scare. You have an occasional encounter with the big rhino, right? As you're walking through the forest, and there's okay, I stepped the wrong direction here. There's a rhino right in front of me. He's kind of mad. Now I have to run, right? So that's what you're made for, and your body's beautiful at doing that, escaping danger. But if you're constantly being activated that way, that there's a rhino around every tree, right, trying to run you down, and you can never get out of there, you're going to wear yourself out. All your energy is being directed towards trying to protect yourself.
Or like there might not be rhino at every tree. You just scared that there might be. Right? That's what you do. Right. That the truth is, there's just maybe one rhino that's already behind that scared you once, and now every time you see a tree, and you are scared because of the possibility that there might be rhino, right? So you are staying in protection mode. That's what's happening.
Yeah, thank you. That's a perfect point, because that's what you're describing right there is the essence of trauma. That's trauma. So if you experience that really scary situation, and it shocks you so badly that you never end up coming out of it, that's trauma. And you get stuck. Part of your awareness in its subconscious gets stuck in that emergency mode, in that protection mode, because now you're imagining, oh no, there could be a rhino everywhere all the time, right? And you're always scared, and you're always trying to protect yourself against something that doesn't exist anymore, right? You're just seeing a tree, and what's really there is a tree, but what you're scared of is that behind the tree is that rhino, right? So that's trauma, and that's that leads to a broken relationship with kind of life, right? But it can leave an imprint on relationships, right? So if you have that bad experience in one relationship, it can traumatize you so that you feel as though any relationship, right, is going to be the same kind of experience, right? So you're protecting yourself by keeping yourself away from it, or you're sabotaging the relationship, right? That kind of stuff, right? Because you're scared of re-experiencing that past pain. So that's how trauma can come into the picture, but it can be, even if it's without trauma, it can be in just a rerun every single day is the same story. You're going to a workplace and it's a toxic work culture there, right? You're basically having to protect yourself and watch your back all the time because people are trying to take advantage of you at work, right? Or they're just unpleasant people, right? So then if you have no safe place, you are wearing yourself out. All your energy is being directed towards that protection. And then you cannot actually protect yourself. That's the weird thing, because you're so exhausted. You might be able to get, one tiny little bit of deflection up against some kind of real attack when it comes along, but it's going to be lame because you're so exhausted, and you're going to end up in a bad situation because you've exhausted yourself thinking there's a rhino behind every tree. Right? It makes real relationship impossible. It makes living life impossible. You're tired. You're exhausted. When your energy and you're drained all day long, what do you think happens? Health problems will come in somewhere, right? They'll creep in. Whether your back is always going out just because you're so tensed up, or you'll get headaches because of the strain, the stress, right? Or you'll get the stomach problems because of all the stress, right? Or the health problems are endless, the different variety in how, and they reflect how you're dealing with life, right? So this is a key. What's on the screen right now, that little phrase kind of sums up most of what people face when they're working with you, right? They come to you with a health problem. This would be the number one thing, number one issue that's going on. And if there's no safe place because the people around you are actually hurtful, or you imagine them to be hurtful, one way or the other, if you have no safe place, you're exhausted, you're tired, and there's health problems, they will come in. And that's why there's a connection between relationship and health problems, right? There's a couple of connecting points there, but yeah. So and that's why you say in reading so many times that there's some way of addressing a relationship that will help the health problem. And the person getting the reading a lot of times would be like, huh? Right? And then you end up needing to explain, right? And walk people through it. But so this is one huge factor. Did you want to add anything to that, or yeah, I did. There was another point I wanted to make about it, and that is that this issue is probably the number one issue that prevents people from getting help, because they feel as though they're going to be scared. They're scared of dealing with it in some way. They're scared of it getting worse by dealing with it. They end up, because they're so gun shy, because there's been so much pain that's come at them and they're traumatized, they end up being scared of letting it go, because they know that letting it go means dealing with it in some way. So that's something that takes a good conversation with ourselves to be honest and just make the decision, like, do we want to continue in pain and suffering and health problems, or do we want to face the music and deal with the situation, so that if there's a relationship issue there, like I was in an abusive relationship, but it's the last thing I wanted to let go of. I thought it was, that was all I had, right? So I didn't want to deal with having to get out of that, because I knew that would be a lot of drama, and a lot of pain, and I'll have to let go of a lot of things.
Or you I don't know, maybe that's a part of it, but your case, you in a way you didn't think that was the cause, because you thought you dealt with it on your own, right? You thought you let go of all those things, and you've forgiven those people, right? And then you didn't think you have anger, right? So, and then those things come up in a reading. I said, I've already dealt with it, right? And that's another thing that happens in the reading with clients, because lots of people know cause. Lots of people can make connection with physical issue and some emotional issue. Lots of people can make connection, and that's why they work on it, have therapies and stuff, and they still not getting better, and they come to us and they say they dealt with all those things, and they've done so many things, right? And then you're one of them, and then if I'm still receiving it, then the work is not complete, right? And but lots of times I go, what? I've done so much, and then you don't want to admit, right, that you didn't do, I don't know.
And finish the job. So
when you thought you did,
Yeah.
and then you can receive like you didn't do it right, you did it wrong, or right, those negative ways you can receive, and that can be hard, right? So
So, yeah, I mean, I worked very hard on myself before we did a reading about this stuff, and you would tell me that there's a relationship thing going on with the same people that I've done all this work with, and help, and forgiven them and all that kind of stuff. And you say that there's something there because you're receiving that the work isn't done yet. So this is tricky because we're talking about the subconscious mind, right? In the end, we are only aware of just this much of ourselves. Not consciously aware, our conscious awareness, or the part that we call us, right? Paul, this guy, when I know I'm only going this deep, right? The subconscious is by definition all the parts of our consciousness that we're not aware of, and that's like the rest of the iceberg, right, underneath the water. And it doesn't mean that I'm shallow, doesn't mean that anybody's shallow. It's by definition part of the way we're built, that our conscious awareness only takes on this much, and the rest it delegates to the subconscious. And it's at a very deep level, and what you're receiving in many cases is that and this is where I was talking about the trauma part, right? When you're traumatized, that negative relationship situation, we're talking about relationship in this case, was left an imprint in your subconscious, and you're just not aware of it. So you deal with all the stuff you're aware of, and that's great, that's perfect, right? Nothing could be better. But there's a mistake that can often be made to think that that's all there is, right? And that's what you're saying. And I made that same mistake. And what was really going on was there was stuff that I had buried, stuff that I'd forgotten, right? Completely forgotten, and blanked out, because it was just too much. So that's what you were receiving, is that part hadn't been dealt with. And so we did additional work and we went deeper into it and let that stuff out and let it go and forgave that stuff and moved on, right? And so this can be very heavy duty, very deep work. And so did you want to add more to that, or should we go to the next part?
Yeah, we can go to the
Okay,
next
yeah,
one.
sure. So, I mean, on another aspect of this is to flip it around, right? Is when we, all of us at some point, we do things that we're not proud of, right? We're angry, we're frustrated, there's just too much going on, way, way, way too much. And something presses a button somewhere and you just react. And you say something you don't want, that you're not proud of, right? And you say something to someone you care about. So this is, again, this relationship thing, right? So you say something to someone you care about, maybe your kids or something like that. And then later, oh my God, you're like, what did I do? What did I say? How can I fix this? Whatever. So that shame that you feel, that you can feel about that kind of stuff, if you don't work with it and let it go, then that shame is the heaviest energy you can carry. It's so dark and so heavy and so toxic that it can definitely cut your health, because it undermines your self-worth, it undermines your sense of who you are and that you can accept yourself, right? If you're not acceptable, you're going to reject yourself. And then what does that do, right? You're creating a war inside yourself. So all of those things are very, very heavy duty, and can end up translating into health problems as well. So that's just another aspect of it. Did you want to enlarge on that?
Yeah, shame, self-blame, right? That stays there, and other people, the people who might have hurt you, they maybe have forgiven you, but you are not taking it, and you not forgiving yourself, right? And that happens a lot. Like let's say parents, right? I've done something to my parents, and the parents are gone, and they passed, and they are past, and you cannot really talk to them, and then you cannot hear them saying that they forgive you, and then you're going to just keep blaming yourself. And then what happens when you blame yourself is you are, you're torturing yourself. You are not allowing yourself to heal, to be healthy, because that's how you are punishing yourself to pay the price, right? That's your parents. Let's say that it's between you and your parents, and they might forgiven you already, like years and years ago, or even before they passed. They've forgiven, and they might have already told you that they forgive you, but you just don't allow yourself to receive it, and then you might be choosing to stay in a self-blame state, and then that's how you can create health issue. But if you think this way, like if you can sense or logically understand that your parents can forgive, or probably have forgiven you already, right? Even if you can't see them anymore, but you can logically think, and they wouldn't be mad at me. They love me, right? Those kind of things, but you still blame yourself. You can take it this way, would your parents like to see you keep suffering, right? They've forgiven you, and then they want you to be healthy and happy, but you are choosing the opposite, and then keep hurting yourself. Is that what they want to see, right? Um, and then yeah, you can think that way, and think and see the situation from their perspective, and then you might be able to change a little bit, right? If you were the parents, you wouldn't want to see your kid staying suffering over what you've forgiven years ago, right? So,
and that's one of the most beautiful things about mediumship reading. That's why it's, to me, it's my favorite kind of reading, is how bittersweet they are, because there is that resolution to that raw end on the relationship, right? That's just can be just eating away at you, and you just don't have resolution. You don't have what's the right word I'm thinking of here? Closure. You don't have closure, and so when you're in that situation, and then you do a mediumship reading, what always comes through is forgiveness, right? Basically, it's because on the other side, they don't have the same. They don't have the judgment. There's no judgment. So, I mean, that's another perfect example of relationship, right? Even when life is over, that relationship is still, there's still something there, right? So like relationship is so defining to our existence. Even death isn't strong enough to end that relationship, right? Not really, not truly, right? Not the connections that we have. Yeah, and then going beyond that kind of shame stuff, I mean, then there's the relationship with ourselves, right? So, and you were talking about just this with me just yesterday, I think, about self-love, and how that's pretty much at the center of almost all your readings, that there's something there where people are not loving themselves, right? I mean, that was true for me. Holy cow. That was a big life lesson for me, was how far I went away from that and came back. So this is maybe, I don't know if it's the most important relationship, but it's central. Absolutely defining is our relationship with ourselves, right? And if we reject ourselves, if we dislike ourselves, if we just don't have love for ourselves, if we judge ourselves, if we're just hard on ourselves, everybody is so hard on themselves, right? And I think you say this in almost in a lot of your readings, right? Is you touch on this, that we don't need to be so hard on ourselves. That's where that we end up, like you said, we end up thinking that we need to be punished. We need to experience the pain and suffer because of the bad things that we've done, quote unquote bad things.
Yeah, and like people being hard on themselves. Some people know that, and some people don't even realize that they're being hard on themselves, and I tell them and they don't get it, and I'm not being hard on myself, right? But it's not just you have to be this way, you have to do it. You're not good enough, and it's not like right on your face and happening right here. It's in the subconscious mind, so it's a very very quiet voice. And the example is like being hard on yourself. One example is the opposite. That's opposite, or the sign that you are being hard on yourself is when you're not giving yourself enough credit. You might not be saying I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. You might not be saying it directly using those words, but if you're not giving yourself enough credit, then that's you being hard on yourself. Like you did one task out of 10 tasks that you are going to do today, one task, lots of people not going to give themselves credit for doing one task, right? But you did one task, you have to finish 10 things, you gotta start with one, right? So that one is as important as the 10th one, right? But people only give credit when they did the 10th one, right? Lots of times, and
that's a big deal. Yeah.
that's what I see a lot, and that's what I mean by people being hard on themselves. It's they are not they're not accepting themselves as much as they should be doing. So that's and that leads to not loving themselves. It leads to conditional love, right? And because you're gonna only give credit when you reach 10, and up till then, wherever in between, you are subconsciously, by not giving yourself credit, you're subconsciously telling yourself you're not good enough till you reach to the top, right? So that's the whole time you are doing one step at a time to reach where you want to be. Those important every steps that you are taking, but every step you're taking subconsciously, you are saying you're not good enough. You have to until you get there, right? So that's self conditional self-love that you're giving yourself. So you are not loving yourself fully, right? You're not accepting yourself as you are, and those are you can say that you are not loving yourself fully, right? And and then being hard on yourself. So
And if you're not good enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not good enough. You say that to yourself subconsciously so many times throughout the day, every single day. Because how many times do you have 10 things that you want to get done, and you get all 10 done, right? And even on that same day, you're still at 9, and you're not good enough until you finally get to the 10. So just at the end of that one rare day, you're feeling great about yourself, right? All the rest of the time, your basic attitude, your basic message to yourself is you're not good enough. Good enough for what? Good enough to be happy, to
Mhm.
succeed, to be healthy, not good enough to live, to exist.
Mhm.
Not good. What's after that? Not good enough,
Mhm.
right? What comes in the blank in that
Mhm.
sentence? And believe me, that negativity that you're carrying with "you're not good enough"
Mhm.
will carry right on into one of those things,
Mhm.
right? Something,
Yeah,
right?
subconscious
So
mind
you're
will
focusing on one,
fill in the blank.
fill in the blank there somewhere.
Yeah.
And you'll end up in, that's one major way of creating a health problem,
Mhm.
a major way,
Yeah,
right? So,
and
or
yeah.
not good enough to get better, right?
Mhm.
Even that one, right? So people think that getting healthy is an achievement,
Mhm.
right? That they have to reach the goal and somehow beat the odds and pull off a miracle and get healthy, right?
Mhm.
No, that's not what it's about. It's about letting go of these toxic programs.
Mhm.
It's not an achievement. It's a letting go,
Mhm.
right? So if you're not good enough, then you're thinking you're not good enough to achieve, and it's not even an achievement thing. So it's a real weird way of undercutting yourself from getting healthy.
Yeah, and then
Right.
like physical, subconscious mind control your physical body too.
Yeah.
Right. It's just one of the things that subconscious does,
Mhm.
controlling physical body, and
Mhm.
it's subconscious mind is running a program, not good enough. Right. You're not good enough, and then the subconscious mind is controlling your physical body. By running that program on top of that program not good enough, and then physical bodies being controlled, right, and being run by it,
Yes.
right. So what happened is, so the body received the message not good enough in so many different parts, right. I'm not good enough to my body's not good enough to send blood in a healthy way, right? The circulation, right, or not healthy enough to digest, right?
Properly.
And
Yeah.
and not healthy enough to create new cells, right? And
Mhm.
getting rid of toxic
Mhm.
stuff. Right?
Mhm.
So it translates directly into physical functioning,
Mhm.
right? And then it can start to slow down or stop and create some issues.
Mhm.
Those things can happen
Mhm.
just by having a program running in the back that I'm not good enough,
Mhm.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, the subconscious mind is, it doesn't just like run the physical body. It's like there's no separation between the subconscious mind and the functioning of the physical body.
Mm-hmm.
They're one. So it's like if you put positive programming in there, things will run beautifully. If you put a negative programming in there, your body will dysfunction. There's no escaping it.
Mm-hmm.
So having these negative programs in our subconscious mind directly translates into a physical outcome in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the, with the trauma we were talking about earlier, or that just being not good enough, just that sense of not being good enough.
Mm-hmm.
All those things, absolutely, yeah. So having that healthy relationship with ourselves is essential to healing, of just loving ourselves, right? And then I wanted to touch on this because this is all about relationship, giving and receiving, right? So if I feel like I I'm the one who's giving when I go and buy you a present, right? And that's what I'm comfortable with, right?
And I feel Because I don't like people saying I'm like, I don't know, I might
I'm
be
the
creating,
giver.
yeah, I might be creating some issues here, but when I hear people saying I'm the giver, and I would say they're missing something
Yes.
very important.
Well, that comes directly out of the "I'm not good enough" conversation, because people can feel only comfortable with giving if they don't feel worthy of receiving. Right? If they're not good enough, they don't deserve to be given to. So they might only feel comfortable with being givers. So they're out of balance, right? And they're creating a health problem. They can be creating a health problem by taking on this idea that they are the giver, right?
Yeah, it's
It reinforces it. It can reinforce it by domino effect.
yeah, it's like they are in a way, they are, how can I say this one, they're yes, they're people who give and give and give, but it's, if they say they are the givers and they are missing something, and the people who give and give and give, and they don't consider themselves a giver, those one I respect, and because they know, just like the, the screen saying, they know they are receiving as well when they are giving, because giving is receiving, right? But
So explain how that works.
I don't know, it's I can simple, it's very simple in my head, but it took for you to long time
I did not compute for me for a long
so
time.
I don't know how I can explain this one simply, but I'll try. So when you give, you are receiving. You can't, giving doesn't happen without receiving. That's how I feel. If giving is giving happening without receiving, that's something unhealthy, and it's not giving. You are not giving fully. There's something missing there, right? For example, let's say you were saying giving a present, right? I love giving present. Let's say somebody saying that. Why? That I can say two reasons, big reasons. And these might be very similar, and some people cannot separate those two. In my head, it's clear, but it might look exactly the same. So people give, right? Give and give and give to for to justify themselves. They are a good person. I'm a good person. I love giving, and then so does it make sense? That's what that's what they're doing. They need
They can
to.
go to the extreme of being virtual signaling, right? They can
They
be
need
like,
to
"Hey,
have.
see, I'm the good guy. I'm giving,"
Yeah,
right?
yeah. They need to have that position. That's a protection for them too. They need to have that position to be a nice person. I'm a nice person, and and then that's a lack of self love too. It's I don't want to go so many different directions, but it's sorry, it's all connected. It's so deep. Just giving and receiving, it's so deep. But so you are giving because you want to be a good person. You want to look like a good person. You want people to think you're a good person because you need those opinion and those what they are thinking about you are important because you are not loving yourself enough. You need to fill in those gaps, right? So you give and give and give, and then you try to protect yourself that by saying by being a good person. Um, yeah, that's one way, and the other way is you give and give and give because you receive. You can feel the receiving part so much, and it's fulfilling when you give. Um, let's say you give a present to someone, right? And then it's not one way. You are receiving in return. You're receiving their happiness and their smiles, and not it's just you are not, if you're expecting anything in return, that's not giving either, right? You're just doing it unconditionally, and instantly you are receiving the smiles and their happiness, and that's
The gratitude,
yeah.
you're feeling the strengthening, the acknowledgement of your relationship, of the friendship, of the love. It's an acknowledgement in that case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how clearly it's you can separate from the first one, being a good person, and this one, it's very 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 similar. If you
On the outside.
On the outside,
Yeah.
and then maybe in the inside too, if you never experience the other way, or the second way fully, right? So you might not be able to separate, but anyway, giving is receiving, and if you are expecting something in return, that's not giving. And if you expecting anything in return, could be something she had to give me something back, right? Or they gonna see me as a good person. That's something expecting something in return too, right? And that's not giving. Giving is unconditional, and then you're not expecting anything in return, and then you are uh, while you are giving, you should be feeling receiving without them doing anything for you in return. You be receiving something, right? So
what you're saying, the difference is, the reason why giving is receiving is that you are truly, when I give you a present, if I'm doing it in the way that's healthy, then I know I can feel and what I'm receiving too. I can feel that I'm receiving when I give, because I'm receiving your love, your appreciation, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah, because it's just in this moment. Nothing happened in the past are not related. Some things might be happening in the future, not related. If you are connecting past and future with this thing that giving right now, then you are you might not be doing full giving thing. Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
because then it starts to get into the sort of like a business exchange kind of thing, right? You did something for me before, so I'm going to give you something back,
Yeah,
right?
now we're even.
Now we're even. So like there's like an obligation or anything like that, right? That's a whole different thing. We talked about this at length in a different video, but on giving is receiving. But I wanted to talk about it here to a point to illustrate that that relationship. That's an aspect of relationship, because all relationship is giving and receiving, right? It's all. You know, I give you my attention, right? That's giving, right? I give you my patience, right? I give you all those things. I give you my understanding, right? I give you, I share with you my knowledge, whatever it is that's giving, right? And I'm receiving in response, I'm receiving maybe perhaps similar things, right? So that's relationship, right? So that when it's done in a healthy way, like you're saying, just in the moment, without expectation of reward, in full appreciation of what you're receiving as you give, then and that there's no disconnection between them, right? Then it becomes a healthy thing that leads to a healthy physical life, right? Your physical body will respond when you have healthy relationship with others. And so, like even just if someone is sharing their wisdom, right, you might think of that as giving, right? When the other person is simply listening and simply really receiving that, that's a gift too. So that the person who is talking is doing it in a way that, like, I'm just the giver. I share my knowledge because I'm so smart, right? That's out of balance. But if I am appreciating the fact that you're listening, then I really realize that I'm getting something in return, right? And that they can't be separated, right? So that energy exchange
it
never
doesn't happen. Giving doesn't happen without receiving. It's not a separate thing. It happens at the same time, and people separate them, giving and receiving. That's when healthy, unhealthy relationship. Yeah. Because it's not separate. It's one thing.
It's built right in that if I'm speaking, it only means anything if you give me your attention by listening, right? And then not just sitting quietly, but you are actually attempting to understand, right? There's all different levels of what you could be giving me just by being here, right? If I'm just the person using up all the oxygen in the room, and I'm just talking, and I'm not paying attention to anything else other than the sound of my own voice, then that's not relationship. That's not giving. That's not anything. It's just weird, right? And people sense that. It's not. So it's part of relationship. It's part of health, and when there is that giving and receiving at the same time, it leads to healthy relationship with others. It leads to therefore then a healthy psychology, a healthy emotional state. It leads to a healthy body. There's no way to separate those things. They all go together. So and if that stuff, I mean, what we're talking about is if it's difficult, right? If it's difficult to relate to others, if it's difficult to relate to yourself, if you've been working at it, and then you're hitting something you don't know what it is, right? Then it's going to be a subconscious program that's in the way. So, like we were saying earlier, with trauma, for example, right? Or if I'm just always the one who's talking in the room and I don't really pay attention other than my voice, then there's some reason for that. There's something that's happened to me in the past. There's some I'm trying to fill some need in me to have people listen to me. I'm so desperate for people to listen to me that I just have to do all the talking and try to control the situation. That's me being out of balance, right? And so all that kind of unhealthy relationship has to do with subconscious programming, not feeling good enough, right? Not feeling good enough thing that we talked about earlier about yourself. That is a subconscious program, negative subconscious program. So all of those things, if that's what's going on in your life, then it's subconscious programming, and there is a way to get rid of it. And you can just schedule a free life breakthrough session with us, and we can help you with it. Because that's what we do, right? That's our Psychosoul program is built to allow you to identify what it is. You know, even if I've got a health problem, like a physical health problem, when I come to you and you say it's a relationship, it's about relationship. Okay, we're talking about subconscious programming, right? And that's why we do our the subconscious shift work that we do, and then all the support that we do with Psychosoul. So if you're interested in that, just schedule a free life breakthrough, and we'll be happy to see you. You can stop by our shop. We do have some programs out there, and we'll see you next week right here on Ether at 4 p.m. Eastern next Sunday. And if you like the program, share, like, subscribe, and we'll see you again next week. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.